Jammu was one phase of mine actually. Yes, we were there immediately after Ukraine. I had to come to Jammu and be at Jammu for extended almost 2 years, 4, 5, 6, 7 months before I went on to the NDC course. Fact of the matter was, in Jammu, we saw each of the major terrorist attack at that point in time, including Pathankot, Uri, Nagrota, Pathankot, Kathua, and many such places. It's the later part of our tenure. The town of Goma came under attack by FARDC. There was a time when they were organized so much and they were pushing us back, and they could have taken over the UN headquarters in Goma, at the Goma airport. So that is the time at night I was one of the first one to go and launch over there, and we had our triggers were hot and we fired, and one of my colleagues and coastmate, he got a very good shot at the one of the camps. He was decorated gallantly for that, and we fired at many places. So that whole effort was there, that they were stopped by day and night in their tracks, and they could not take over Goma, and we remained there. Otherwise we would have had to evacuate from there. The situation was that dire. You have to really see to believe some of our presentation that we had as to how they would hack their opponents and actually eat them. Yes. So believe you me that it was such a terrible scene in the matter of exploitation which was happening over there. It can happen that way. So they are brutal when they would, very young soldiers under the effect of khat is that tobacco that they chew. They would do all kinds of atrocities, and when they would start hitting, it is inhuman. Absolutely, you and I cannot imagine that. So that is what is the sensitivity which was being driven, at least into me, and I was taking it up all into my ethics and value system, and I knew that yes, this is what is to be done. So I also happened to be standing at Simferopol, the capital of Crimea, that fateful when Crimea was taken over by Russia. I was there to soothe and to ease the students of the medical college in Simferopol, to comfort them that, look, don't worry, I'm here and nothing's grave going to happen. Hired a whole train from the town which is now under attack at this point of time. It was just at that point of time in 2014 when we had to evacuate people over there. The environment was so intense that nothing could land over there. So I hired a full train, managed to put all the students on that train. I had to spend the Holi there with them and convince everybody else, push my way through by threat and otherwise as well, Sam, Dam, Dand, Bhed, and get the people back into Kyiv where Ambassador and his team was waiting. So, because they had those rulers, Bogdan Khmelnytsky, you try and Google him and see. Bogdan Khmelnytsky was a hitman. He would carry his bulat, and he would bulat is something like a Hanuman ji ki gada, choti gada, bulat. So the beacon of authority. He would ride his horses back far and wide in that area, and he was known to take over things in one or the other manner. I mean, Gen Bajwa, later who was the chief of the army staff in Pakistan, was the brigade commander. Brigadier Bajwa was commanding the Pakistani brigade in Bukavu. So it was a very healthy interaction, so to speak, because this is what happens when you go away from your country and your issues. At the same time, we always maintained the undercurrent, which was always there, because that competitive edge between soldiers at that point of time could never go down. So one would always be very mindful of things that way as it is there. But yes, it was our job, because we were all troop contributing countries, TCCs, to the UN. India being one of the largest one. We also ran the biggest hospital in Goma, by the way, where everybody would come for their treatment, because our doctors, our AMC doctors were so good. And then it was known all over the Congo actually. People would come from as far as Kinshasa to get treated over there, because they knew that these guys will set you right. In the year 1991, Apaches had put in a very famous attack on Iraqi radar site. Right? Task Force Normandy, how they went. They were the first shots fired for the 1991 Gulf War to put that radar down, and that is when F-117s flew in, and rest is history. Directorate of Air Staff Inspection, the standardization body which comes and sees that are you ready for war or not. Okay, so we all lined up and we were all charged up. one aeroplane radio was not coming up on time. So see how the team makes a difference. The briefing of my people was so good, and I was the commanding officer. So I was just observing it, and if that aeroplane would have fallen off, we would have lost marks immediately. Our mission would not have been graded as what it was, because instead of 4 aircraft, we said only 3 aircraft. Weight on the target, weight of attack had reduced. So it's a no-go situation. So we had to put 4 aeroplanes. So there wasn't a standby aircraft which was also opened up, but something or the other was happening. So the airman who was seeing us off, the airman who was seeing us off, he realized something is not right. And he ran, he did that, he quickly changed the RD set and the aeroplane started up. So my first disappointment came at the end of a practice of the passing out parade, where I was told that, a friend of mine who joined the administrative branch, he went and saw the list, and he came and said, "Yeah, helicopter." So it was a very terrible jolt for me, to be very honest. Put my foot down and I said, "Look, I need to go to Leh to fly in the glacier." So I was told, "No, what are you doing? Your skill set is different, But I was sick and tired of these, these jabs of my other colleagues that, no, you are a runway pilot, attack helicopters, they need a lot of place to land. You haven't seen helicopter flying, you don't know how helicopter flies. So some of my seniors in the SCON had told me that, the best way for you to grow is to go to the glacier and see how the cheetah flies in glacier. Learn that. Unconventional instructor, and my friend was a very gifted flyer. Once in a while, what used to happen was that this was a very sortie which did not go as per expectation. And even that unconventional instructor, he caught the aeroplane back in a bit of a fury and switched off the aircraft, and they came out, and normally they would walk hands in hand, which was very heartening for many instructors and pupils to see. But this time they were poles apart, and the instructor went away in a half to have a smoke later, and Vinay Kumar Singh was very upset at my that. So I just would want you to imagine that in the bow at the board, he drew the canopy of the aeroplane, okay, how the sky would see, which we call as horizon, where the sky and the earth seem to meet, and he drew the starter panel of the aeroplane, which was what was visible to us. I drew that diagram and asked my friend, "What is this? What do you think it is?" Vinay Kumar Singh, my friend, looked at it very hard, 2 times, 3 times. He said, "Sir, I think, we are standing in one football goalpost and looking at the other goalpost." That's what it seemed like. So his instructor put his hand to the forehead. He said, "Yeah, take a break today. Today, just go home. We'll see it tomorrow, actually."
Welcome to Aviator's Voice. Joining us today is retired Air Commodore Ashutosh Lal, a decorated officer of Indian Air Force with a remarkable career. A qualified flying instructor, accomplished test pilot, he has flown a wide range of aircrafts, including formidable Me-35 Hind. He has served as an instructor at Air Force Academy and represented India as a diplomat in Kyiv. Contributed to international peacekeeping as a part of UN mission in Congo. His journey is a true testament to service, skill, and leadership. We are honored to have you, sir, on this podcast. Thank you for joining. It is a true privilege. Thank you, sir.
Mehul, thank you very much. आपका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद.
Yes, sir. So before we dwell into your service life and your time at NDA, so what was your motivation to join NDA and go for Air Force?
Mehul, if you allow me, just a little bit of a opening remark from my side. Look, there is no point glorifying any service. You, like a true citizen of India, all of us, you included, me included, Prakhar included, and each one of your listeners, आप जब जितने भी लोग हैं, everyone is trying to do their best for the country. So it just so that I was fortunate to have been selected. It was just so fortunate that I was trained, and once I'm trained, then I'm required to perform. I just did my job. So I would like to, tone down this bit of a rhetoric that it was a glorious career and it was a testimony to this and that, the other. We all are true citizens of India, and it is our inbound duty to do the best wherever we are, actually. So in my eyes, each one of you is a very big luminaire who is doing their work, like you and your friend who's trying to bring this channel, to bring this awareness. All this is towards nation building. So we all did our job. So let's, for the purpose of this podcast, and आपके viewers के लिए भी ये मैं कहना चाहूंगा कि please, glorifying is not the way to look at it. Actually, the idea is to see what is the passion and what is the performance and what is the jazba of carrying out that job. Okay, with that background, like all of the children, I was fascinated with the aeroplanes and the air force for a very early stage of my life. I'm not sure if this is true or false, but I was told by my teachers of the classes nursery, whom I used to meet very often later as well, कि मैंने कोशिश की बोर्ड पे जा करके एक जहाज बनाने की, जब मुझसे पूछा गया कि आप बड़े होके क्या बनना चाहते हैं. So apparently it was some childhood memory which was lodged somewhere in the inner part of my brain, uh, and there was always fascination, because जब हम छोटे थे तो आपकी तरह इतना ज्यादा वाइड हमारे पास मीडिया अवेलेबल नहीं था, इतनी इंफॉर्मेशन नहीं थी. हमारे पास एक हिंदी की किताब साप्ताहिकी आती थी, पत्रिका धर्मयुग. कभी कभी उसमें 8 अक्टूबर के आसपास एयरफोर्स पे आर्टिकल आते थे, तो उसमें जहाज, एरोप्लेन, उनके बारे में कुछ चीजें, कुछ आर्टिकल्स. सो यू कीप दैट फॉर लॉन्ग टाइम. देन देयर वर कमांडो कॉमिक्स, अगर आपको याद हो, सेकेंड वर्ल्ड वॉर की कमांडो कॉमिक्स. उसमें there were many heroics of the pilots who would go and fight. Of course, it was written from one particular perspective. We know that now. But those days, when you were very impressionable and you would want to do that, so we would not. Then there was gliders and then this, that, the other, and you make some models and you make some paper models and you get some book from somewhere where you can make some paper aeroplanes and try and fly them. So it's sort of a passion which stayed through some bit of an NCC as well, and it continued in that particular manner, right?
Yes, sir. So from your point of view, how was your journey like in NDA? And आपने अपना SSB पहले अटेम्प्ट में क्लियर कर लिया था?
Before taking my shot at the NDA, that was in class 12th. In our time, the NDA was available to us after class 11th as well. But मैंने अपना पहला एग्जाम क्लास 12th में दिया था. उसके पहले एक्चुअली आई वाज अ क्रिकेटर यार. So I was playing first class cricket for the Central Zone. Central Zone is a team combined of UP, MP, Rajasthan, and Vidarbha, part of Maharashtra, Nagpur area. Right? This is called Central Zone of BCCI, Board for Control of Cricket in India. तो मैं उनके लिए क्रिकेट पहले ही खेल रहा था. आई वॉज अ विकेटेबल बैट्समैन. सो आई वॉज ऑलरेडी वेरी एक्टिव इन द स्पोर्ट्स फील्ड. माई मदर एज ऑलवेज वॉज वरिड कि ये पढ़ाई करता नहीं है, खेलता रहता है, वगैरह वगैरह. सो यू नो the outlook of the life was studies, sports, which was very serious, and I was I played till under 22, so it's quite competitive at a very young age. So it was a lifestyle which was very disciplined and was very regimented. Though nobody from my family and background has ever been in the armed forces, and there is no one even now. So I was just one lone wolf who was standing over there. So there is no regimentation as such. The Fauji families have a bit of a regimentation because people are there. And, there's some system which is running. Mine was driven because of cricket. Get up very early in the morning, go and practice and practice and practice, and then play the match and come back and study and read, वगैरह वगैरह. So इस तरह से करते करते, there was when we were looking for options what to do, I realized that uh, NDA is one way to make my dream come true. And therefore the choices of subjects, because we were to bifurcate right after class 8th in our subjects. So left biology aside, uh, physics, mathematics, geometrical drawing in class 9th. Those days in UP board, we could have that. So everything else became, everything else started to fall in place, because like I said, our information window was very narrow. Unlike yours, you have a 360 visibility. You can always, people of your age can, they can log into places and can see what exactly is happening. We had no option. So we just were hearsay and small books here and there and some place in NCC and some guidance from NCC area headquarters or whatever. Actually, they used to have some kind of training cell. So we just kept moving that way. And lo and behold, I found myself giving the ND exam. Also, customarily, I had to write all the other exams. We didn't have a CET at that point of time. We used to have IT, JE separate, and other traditional engineering college separate. So that is what I had to write, because parents were standing on your head, and everybody was expecting, no, he has scored well in 10th. he scored well in 12th and done well in 12th. So, something should happen, whichever way. But as luck would have it, I did not tell anyone else that I've also qualified in other exams. Only NDA result came to fore. And before anybody could realize, I was well on my way to my process. Yes, you are right. It was the first attempt which I took. And through AFSB at Banaras, I was in CME Delhi doing my medicals. And before anything else happened, the merit list came out. Uh, I found myself sitting in a train, being said bye bye by friends and family, and the train moving out of my dear city, Lucknow. As it moved out, वो जो रेलवे स्टेशन में बोर्ड होता है ना, लखनऊ जंक्शन, हिंदी में लिखा
Yes,
है,
sir.
इंग्लिश में लिखा है, समुद्र तल से ऊंचाई. Then when it went past my eyes, I realized that I think the journey has truly begun. And sure enough, that was for a very long time last of Lucknow what I saw.
Sir, did your passion and discipline for cricket help you in NDA? And is there any one memory or a late night punishment during your time at NDA that is still with you?
No, so since you are linking cricket to my NDA, uh, to be very honest, let me tell all of you out over there, जितने भी आप लोग मेरी बात सुन रहे हैं, please, armed forces give a very good option for you to pursue any game, any sports which you have. By the way, we also have sports entry which happens with the services. If you have qualified for state zone, won some medals, then you can laterally enter into armed forces. Though may not be in the officer cadre and different cadres, there are different places. And even if the officer is playing, there is a possibility for you to keep pursuing your dream. So, like I played for the Air Force also. I mean, I played cricket for that ways as well. In the NDA itself, I was academy cricket team captain for a very long time, from a very young age, from a very young uh, term, as we call it. We have 6 terms. One term was separate in our times, NDA wing at Ghorpadi. 5 terms were in the main campus at Khadagwasla. So from second term onwards only, I had no choice but to go for cricket. But so this is where it all lies. Cricket is a game which was not seen much kindly in India. It's not a troop game. It's not a team sport, so to speak. Actually, it's not a rigorous team sport, so it wasn't seen very kindly. So when you would say that you have to go for cricket practice, so the seniors would be upset. That no, you need to be doing this and that the other. And to be very honest, I was initially in my initial academy days, I was not very good at the physical standards which are demanded out of me. Although I had great backing from my sporting background, but what NDA was demanding out of me at that point of time, it took me some time, almost a year and a half, to catch up with swimming, with running, with other physical activity, and it was quite a determined time for me when I had to suffer that. And through that also, I had to play cricket because mm, the my officers who were the divisional officers and the squadron commanders who were there, they were able to see my dossier, and then they could say that no, you're a cricketer, you have to go there. And once I reached there, and then everything came back, and then the officer in charge cricket saw me, and we clicked because at a cricketing level we were uh, we were much at the same place and level. So it all branched off that way, much to disliking of my own squadron seniors and others, actually, that you couldn't do that. And very interestingly, we had gone to IMA to play quadrangulars. Even these days, these tournaments are held, and I had a habit of not standing behind for a medium pacer also, because I had seen much more pace. There was not much of the pace, so I would always stand up to even medium pacers with a new ball as well. Uh, in the wicket keeping terms, you understand that. So, a dear friend of mine, retired Armored Corps officer Manish Tripathi, left arm medium pace. He was very nippy actually. So he put one down in that match a little hard on his shoulder. It took off, and I jumped up to gather it. So I did manage to get my hand to it, but I think it broke my finger from here. But there was no choice to tape it up there, and I kept playing. I batted through. We won the matches. We came back. I had a hope that I'll be allowed to report sick to get my finger joint treated. But lo and behold, no, you've gone to Quadrangles, you have a good time over there. There is no reporting sick. Now you pass your advanced PT test, because I happen to belong to Echoes Cotton, the Eagles Cotton from India. It's also called the Academy School of Physical Training. We were so fond of PT, ASPT. So I had to excel in all that. So with this broken finger, which has now got joint somehow or the other, but of course, full functionality is there. But nonetheless, It was very interestingly my cricketing NDA journey both together.
So that's really interesting to know, sir. Sir, आपको अगर option दिया जाए कि out of all the 6 terms of NDA, if you have to choose one and revisit that term, वो आप कौन सा term लोगे and why?
So I I I don't know. Actually, मुझे मैं चाहता हूँ कि आपके listeners ये बात सुने. I'm sure the case to case things are different. As in, the influx into the NDA is either through Sainik schools or Rashtriya Indian Military College or a family of soldiers, army people, those who are coming into the NDA. This is one large group of people who come to NDA who have some exposure. Uh, well, let's say NCC people also, the C certificate holders, not in India, but perhaps later. So they may have that actually. But there was some like me who was completely and totally unaware as to what it's all about. So for me, every term was a very specific and wonderful journey. First term was one. Second term, well, I had a cabin which was on the ground floor central lobby. All the NDS squadrons are made in a U-shape pattern. So the central lobby is where all action takes place and every fallen happen over there. So quickly that place is always center and focus of some or the other activity, nefarious or otherwise, training related, of course, for the matter, in a positive, healthy way. So my cabin was right there, cabin number 7, and in second term, which is the junior most term in that block. So it was a harrowing time. I mean, you anything happens, people are there at your door knocking and pulling you out, and so there was no time for you actually. So it's a how to put it in the words is a difficult proposition, but you just understand it this way, that there was one guy who was always available to do all chores at any given time of the day or night. It's just a matter of kicking his door open. So those were 6 months of second term. I enjoyed them thoroughly. Of course, at times it was very, very hectic. Third term, a different option altogether. From fourth term onwards, some small responsibilities start coming to you. In any case, in my case, by third term itself, I was captaining the India team, so my responsibility a little different. I mean, I had a bit of a share of responsibility over there, but fourth term onwards, there were some appointments happened, 2 stripers, fifth term, 3 stripers, and sixth term, I became the squadron career captain, the head of the squadron actually. Every term had its own flavor, and we had to go through that kind of responsibility. Um, so I did India cadet can pinpoint one particular term. So sixth term was easy. You were learning to glide. You were learning to do all. We were gliding. We didn't have microlights in India at that time. We were gliding like soaring birds. So we were doing that, and there are several things which are happening in all every which way. So I'm not too sure if I can pinpoint one particular term as such, but yes, every responsibility which came, that taught me, that molded me, that set that value system of a soldier into me, brick by brick, motor by motor. It just kept going down to me from every small stage, third, fourth, sixth term, and I think I owe a lot to all that actually, though it's quite many years back. Let me just remind you, I was in India in the year 1983 to 86, June 83 to June 86. So it was that long back. But yet, the values which were poured into me at that point of time, give you example. There would be NDA camps. I don't know if you've heard about it or not. Actually, in different terms in India, there are different camps. Some of the camps are very, very tough terrain-wise to negotiate that, especially for the Air Force guys, because you are taken out for some Air Force work, and when you come back, the Army coastmate of ours are completely washed out, because of all that uh, rigor of the camp which is happening to them. So we have to come in because we are not so tired. So we come and take that responsibility, and we start to carry the rifles and carry the LMG, carry the stretcher in the marches and everything else. Start taking that kind of a responsibility. Mm. And on the unofficial side, okay, which is also part of a lot of it is part of the NDA training and camaraderie which builds over there. So some terms are related to a senior term by course junior, course seniors. So a second termer, fourth termer, third termer, fifth termer, fourth termer, sixth termer, they are linked in this kind of an informal manner. So when they are out in the camp, then the juniors are out in the camp, then six termers will go at night, uh, carrying replenishment for small things, because in the pouches you're required to carry all those 16, 17, 18 items which are required, house if and some bit of a soap here and a comb there and a thread here and a needle there and a button there, and nothing can be missing out of it because it is all mustered and counted, because you have to run with all that, and everywhere you have to open it and see everything is okay. So we would get the deficiency list, sir, we've lost this, it would come from there. So as seniors and juniors, we will cycle our way out and reach there and give it to them, and buck them up. Come on, do it. Tomorrow's the Josh run. You have to get back, and it was whole lot of that kind of a stuff, which was completely new to me. I don't know if I followed all the rules. I might have got caught. I might have got some punishments as well, like you asked. But all that was, I'm very clear and sure now in the hindsight, it was part of the value system which made me the soldier that I thought I am still, perhaps, by my haircut and everything else.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. NDA in itself is a journey. So after NDA, so you went to BFTS. So how was it learning the art of flying? आपने जब पहली बार plane उड़ाया, and what was the आपको challenges क्या क्या face करने पड़े?
No, brother, sorry, we didn't go to BFTS actually. We went straight to the Air Force Academy
Yes, sir.
after the NDA. Yes, you are right. Later, people were coming to BFTS. That is the time when I was instructor in BFTS. But in our courses, we would straight away from NDA go to Air Force Academy. That was truly a sea change. So, कैसे बताऊं मैं आपको? Uh, ऐसे बताता हूं मैं आपको, देखिए बड़ा सिंपल सा तरीका है. Because that era, that was 86, we had reached there. June 86, July 86, something like that. Actually, we had reached there. You have to, first month you have to study about the aeroplane and pass exams and everything else before you could come and touch the aeroplane. Uh, so our training pattern was all jet. That means we started to fly jet aeroplanes in the basic stage. That was at JD-16, Hindustan Jet Trainer 16, Kiran. So we had Kiran Mark 1 Alpha. Okay. So we had to start to fly that. And we had a syllabus on that in the 6 months to be done. So all jet scheme was going on at that point of time. Later, and before us, also much before us, it was piston to jets. Right? Many years back before us, there were ST2s, wonderful tailwheel aeroplanes, of which we heard some harrowing stories of spinning around, and because the tailwheel aeroplane is very difficult to handle on the takeoff and landing runs. It can just spin you like nobody's business on the ground. So ST2s were there, which is something like the old World War II aeroplanes, which you see, the tailwheel aeroplane, the nose is pointing up in the sky. If somebody's sitting behind, he can't even see. You have to really crane your neck and taxi in a snaking manner to try and move forward. Some of my seniors had flown that. Many senior people had flown that. On again Kiran Mark 1 Alpha. So Hakimpet people would fly the Polish aeroplane called Iskra, and Bidar people would fly Kiran Mark 1 Alpha. So I finished my 6 months here and I went to Bidar to fly Kiran Mark 1 Alpha, at the end of which was a trifurcation. So the story which I was coming back to you was how you can say this, that in my course, we had people who had barely learned to cycle in India. Okay. Especially our friends who came from Bhutan and who came from Nepal. So sadly, I had a coursemate of mine, Krishna KB Ghale. Uh, he's no more, helicopter pilot from Nepal, Royal Nepal Army. He had not cycled much because in Nepal, in hilly areas, you don't have much. So there were people who had just about done cycle at the best. There were other people from different sections of society who had just done cycle at the best. I, for one, was able to ride my father's scooter, and he had a Rajdoot scooter, 175cc. Rajdut scooter was a little offbeat scooter. So I could ride a scooter. From there, we graduated to a jet aeroplane. So obviously you can understand, and we didn't have as many synthetic devices as you have today. You are exposed to a video game of taking off and landing, and everything else. So you have your kinetic sense is much better, and I'll refer to it later as we go on in our talk. Actually, your kinetic sense is much better. Ours was not so well developed because we were not driving. We did not know what is an overtake, what is the perspective, what is the crossing speeds, what are the takeoff rate. I mean, what is the overtake rates, what is the relative motion, because we're not even driving the car at that point of time, most of us, many of us. Okay, so our instructors had the tough job to take us through that stage, and in 6 months time make sure that we fully fly that jet aeroplane all by ourselves, stall it, post stall it, spin it, recover it, do fully aerobatics, and come back. So that kind of a, if I can say, a quantum jump. So at that time, of course, it went through uh, like like a very fast whirlwind, because every day was a new day. Sometimes in a day there were two new days. you know, there are many stories about how people would react to the training part of it, actually, and all of us, part of us. And then I'm sure every course has this. Every place, every small nook and corner when you meet, it has these kind of flavors, actually. But it was all an exceptionally rich and diverse, very fast paced journey, which we did not realize at that point of time. That was the beauty of the training system, that we were in that training mold, and tuck, 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 we just kept moving forward from there. Of course, there were wastages, people who couldn't cope up for one or the other reason. They fell off the main train, and they were absorbed into other stores. It's like they had to either join the navigation branch, or they had to join the logistics branch, the admin branch. Yeah, no, no discredit to anyone. Okay, none whatsoever. Mind you, people, my own dear friend who didn't fly, left the flying, became an admin officer, became the ATC officer, has just retired and taken his PVSM from Mahamayim Rashtrapati just now in this investiture, and who retired as the air officer in charge administration. That means the head of the administration of the Air Force, after a glorious 38 years of service with 3 stars and whatnot. Okay, so so it's to nobody's discredit, actually. Everybody, to each man its own. We were there. We didn't have, of course, women with us, actually. So I can safely say, without a gender bias, to each man its own. They really did well in their own respective fields. Exceptional logisticians, exceptional administrative people. Those who became air traffic controllers, some became the fighter controllers. There are these two very specialized, operationalized, backbone kind of branches of the Air Force, which they took on to, actually. But each day was a new day, some with disappointment, some with not. We even lost a coastmate of ours. We had an accident. Uh, Not a coastmate of ours. Coastmate was safe in the ejection. The instructor could not make it through. The aircraft did not recover out of spin. So, there were many cases like that, actually, for that. And there was always a bit of a heartbreak, and we had to shake all that out and move ahead and go on for that matter. Mark my words, which I said in the beginning. मैंने आपसे पहले ही ये कहा कि इसमें glorification का कोई काम नहीं है. There was a training process through which we were being put, okay, and it was incumbent on us. ये हमारी नियत थी कि उस ट्रेनिंग प्रोसेस के बाद हम बन के निकले, वो तब के सोना निकले, जो भी है. जो कोई यहाँ तपा, कोई वहां तपा, लेकिन सब बन के निकले सोना, और सब ने बहुत बहुत कंट्रीब्यूट किया. सो दैट वो एसेंस है हमारा. सो इसमें कोई ग्लोरिफिकेशन नहीं है कि साहब मैंने तो ये किया, मैंने वो किया. इसमें मैं आपको ऐसी ऐसी कोई स्टोरी मैं आपको नहीं सुना सकता हूँ, एक्सेप्ट मैं आपको ये बता सकता हूँ कि यस, every day was a new challenge, every day was a new thing, actually. Many words we would not understand because the environment was so new, and instructors really had to think as to what is that the pupil is not able to see, and then they have to interpret that and explain it to us. So there were many humorous cases, many humorous cases. मैं आपको एक बताता हूँ, मेरे एक बहुत खास दोस्त हैं, लखनऊ के रहने वाले. He was from the Navy, and we were together. We are also school types from Colvin College, Lucknow, actually. If he hears this, he will know this. Uh, आपको पता है लखनऊ वालों का वैसे भी अंग्रेजी में हाथ थोड़ा तेज होता है. So my friend was used to fly with this unconventional instructor, and my friend was a very gifted flyer. Some of us are like that, who have this sense of relative motion, of 3D orientation in space, and they adapt to it very well. Believe you me, it happens. That's why they say some people take to flying like like just they just it is they're born for it actually. Uh, Jonathan Livingston Seagull, the books which you have read about how the pilot feels actually. So there are some people like that, and there are some who train themselves to be like that. But eventually, everybody reaches over there. But there are some like that. So my friend was one such pilot, and he would often uh, very easily uh, learn from the unconventional techniques of his instructor, because who would show it to him and he would just replicate it, without much going into theory or the background of it and so on and so forth. So once in a while, what used to happen was that this was a very sortie which did not go as per expectation. And even that unconventional instructor, he caught the aeroplane back in like a bit of a fury and switched off the aircraft, and they came out. And normally they would walk hands in hand, which was uh, very heartening for many instructors and pupils to see. But this time they were poles apart, and the instructor went away in a huff to have a smoke later. And Vinay Kumar Singh was very upset, and my friend was very upset, and he was later. Instructor took him to the briefing room, and he started to draw sketches, on that. So I just would want you to imagine that in the bow at the board, he drew the canopy of the aeroplane. Okay, how the sky would see, which we call as horizon, where the sky and the earth seem to meet. And he drew the starter panel of the aeroplane, which was what was visible to us. So often instructors would teach the pupils about the attitude of the aircraft with respect to these relative motion. Where is the horizon cutting on this canopy, on this side, on this rating, with respect to the starter panel? Is it above or below? So he used to do that. So the instructor drew that diagram and asked my friend Kyiv, what is this? What do you think it is? So Vinay Kumar Singh, my friend, looked at it very hard, two times, three times, and was like, he said, sir, I think, we are standing in one football goalpost and looking at the other goalpost. That's what it seems actually. So his instructor put his hand to the forehead. He said, yeah, take a break today. Today, just go home. We'll see it tomorrow actually. So how these perceptions are, and there were many humorous occasions. I'm sure there are many cases of mine which people remember, and somebody may tell you about that actually. The fact of the matter is, now we look back and laugh at it actually. At that time, we were in that pressure to cope up in that 6 months, 80 hours, extensions not possible, test, failed test, repeat test, no to repeat test. You have to now fly with the CFI or the CI, and do all sorts kind of things actually. So there was pressure all the way. There was wastage all the way, right till the end, by the way. Okay. There were wastage all the way, and everyone else got to contribute.
So that's a really interesting story and a funny one as well. So initially you planned for to go for fighters, but when traffication happens, you were allotted helicopters. What was your आपका
I,
initial reaction क्या था, and how did you cope up with that?
I must compliment you on the research on me, but uh, yeah. So what happens is trifurcation is a process which happens at the end of the training. In our case, just before commissioning, when people have trained their second term either at Hakimpet or at Bidar, and they've come back to the Air Force Academy for that flashy passing out parade. Just before that, the trifurcation board sits and they trifurcate people to three streams: transports, helicopters, and fighters. Of course, uh, we most of us were fighter optees, so to speak. No, there were people who would want to fly helicopter. There were people who would want to fly transport aircraft. They were. It's not that they were not there, but uh, many of us, most of us, large number of us, so-called fighter optees, because instructors is a fighter pilot, and and this is how you've grown up, and this is what you've tried to be. So you are right, absolutely. My first disappointment came at the end of a practice of the passing out parade, where I was told that a friend of mine who joined the administrative branch, he went and saw the list, and he came and said, "Yeah, helicopter." So it was a very terrible jolt for me, to be very honest. And I just want to share with your viewers and listeners is that कि आप यकीन मानिए कि जैसे बिल्कुल वाकई पहला डिसअपॉइंटमेंट अलग अलग तरह के होते हैं पहले डिसअपॉइंटमेंट आप सबकी जिंदगी में एज यू ग्रोइंग अप आई वाज जस्ट अबाउट what something like just about 20, I think, if I'm not wrong. And there was a major upheaval which happened. Okay. So, to be very honest, I could not take it. It was very difficult for me, and it was sort of rebellious on me. I said nothing doing. I represented myself. I said, no, I've done well. I'm here in the merit. I've done this. I've done that. Uh, I will not. I want to fly fighters only. And I was explained by the system, because system, as much later I understood that system is a system. After all, I was given to understand that no, you have to fly helicopters only. I went to the helicopter training school. I didn't start my flying there also. I went away to play the cricket tournament for the Air Force Academy, for the Air Force team at Delhi. I was captaining it. And so I was just trying to, not start my flying and keep creating this ruckus that write applications to commanding officers. And no, sir, I just need to be considered again in this, that, the other, blah, blah, blah. But which was not taken up. So I think the only silver lining in this dark cloud I had was my own guru, who taught me how to fly helicopters. Commodore A.K. Prasad, retired now. He was a squadron then that time. So in all our lives we have somebody or other who points you in the right direction. The most importantly, what I learned from him later in the hindsight, that he was very patient with me. He didn't let uh, my anger, my disgruntlement, or anything else, go away, whichever way. Uh, he sort of nurtured it and molded it in a manner that I must perform well in the helicopter training school. He was extremely patient with me. I mean, that was an approach. He's my guru till date. And talking about my instructor, who channelized my anger, my disgruntlement, my disappointment, so to speak, actually, uh, and gently coaxed me, showed me the way, and in a very silent way, he he brought about uh, the challenge and the romance to fly helicopters. Okay, and though that peace was still there in the heart, actually, somewhere or other, but you know, uh, I I I got some trophy there, and the first semester, the flying trophy, the ground subject. So something was happening, and so there was little accolades as well. And at the end of it, actually, and I had finished my cricket as well, so I'd spent most of the time away from the school in Delhi, in Palam, Air Force Station Palam. We have our cricket ground. So even that was saturated for so I came back and I flew, and I perhaps did well. It was all credit to him, because if he wouldn't have been there and he would not have handled me the way he handled it, I don't think so. I would have I would have been a wasted cause. The destiny of my life, the course would have changed. Uh, I don't know. I'm very sure about it, actually, but I don't know how and when. But I know for sure one thing, that because of his intervention, with his silent intervention, till date he doesn't take the credit of this whole thing, and he still laughs me off and say no, nothing of that sort. But I know for sure, and I can honestly admit to you that he and his wife, his family, everybody, it's like it was one big support system for me, which by the way continues till date. All right. Yeah.
So when you went for training for Me 35, how was it different from the training at helicopter training school? And since you're training on an attack helicopter, and this is a totally different thing.
Yeah, the only part of my application which I kept putting again and again to fly fighters as a young pilot officer, we used to have part of those days. Is that right? You're not here. Was that my commanding officer and everybody else uh, um, pushed me to 104 helicopter unit at that point of time, which later became 104 helicopters. So 104 HU was the first helicopter unit of the Indian Air Force, raised on 10th of March 1954, uh, and had the glorious task of starting from Sikorsky S-55 helicopters way back in 10th March 54, through Mi-4s, through Chetaks, uh, and that is what we were going to fly, because that unit was earmarked to be converted to Mi-35. And they said if you happen to go there directly and perform well, and then there is a slim chance that you would be taken up for the training of Mi-35 as well. So this is the best we can do for you. Whilst everybody else who had performed better in the helicopter training school, who were on the top side of the merit, they were all sent to the twin engine helicopters, namely the Mi-8. Right? So Mi-8 had the legacy helicopter. Mi-8, Mi-17 was one line of medium lift helicopters which were progressing that way. Chetak Cheetah were single engine helicopters. There were some of us who were stuck who were left behind over there to fly the same helicopter. But like I said, in end, everybody else caught up. That's not an issue actually. At that point of time, it was a conscious gamble, if there is a word like that. It's a conscious gamble, which I took. Said, okay, I'll go to 104 helicopter unit, and so me along with one of my coastmates, and who was also on the similar situation, and we both went there, and we were there actually in Sarsawa. We spent, so those days those helicopters of 104 HU was Chetaks, but we were equipped with air to ground, air to surface missiles. AS-11B1 was a very old missile which was wire guided and used to be guided uh, by a sight on top of the helicopter, top of the canopy of the helicopter, and we had to fly that, and the co-pilot center seat person used to fire the missile and guide the, control the sight by one joystick and control the missile by the joystick. It was one hell of a act to be put through, but we were very passionate about it, and although a very rudimentary helicopter, so a lot of my desire to be part of the combat, somehow to be part of the combat, was fulfilled over there because there was plenty to learn. And there also, I met some wonderful people over there, and especially my second commanding officer over there, who was a test pilot himself. His stories are very popular in the helicopter circle by the pen name of Cyclic. He is now, of course, no more, late Wing Commander Nikartha. Uh, he was the commanding officer who had, as a test pilot, gone to evaluate the helicopter and come back, and he was put in charge to induct this helicopter into 104. And so we were his young team, me and at least 4 5 of us uh, over there, and so we converted from through him with him, as the aeroplane would come to Mumbai in crates, and at Sahar International Airport there's an aircraft reduction unit. They would get assembled over there, and the Russians would test fly them there and hand over to our pilots. So our senior pilots who were already trained either on Mi-25 or who had gone to Russia for training in Mi-25, we did not go, of course, we were all here only. They would accept the aircraft, and along with them, we would fly in the front seat to get the hang of the aeroplane. And that's how we progressed and graduated sort of on job. We didn't have the legacy of a simulator and everything else over that time. So we were on job, on hand, by at hand kind of a training which took place for us. So most of us went through that. And the critical aspect was that the Mi-35 or the Mi-25 is based on the architecture of twin engine Mi-17, Mi-8. So it was a major shift from a rudimentary Chetak to a Mi-35 without having to gone through the Mi-8, Mi-17. There were many other officers who were brought in from very well, my seniors who were exceptionally good flyers of the Mi-8, Mi-17 class. They were brought in to be the middlemen, to the middle back strength of the squadron. There is a there's the top people who have gone there, then there's a middle back strength, and then there are very junior people like us. So the squadron is structured like that, so that we then everybody keeps going up the ladder and people getting posted out, so that we have the kind of a capability in the squadron available. So they had bags of experience on Mi-8, Mi-17. We had none. So we had to struggle more, we had to pay more attention, we had to understand it more. But God was kind, because of our commanding officer and our flight commander who was there with us, uh, Air Commodore Sablok, another fine attack helicopter pilot, and many others as well, who were there with us. They kept guiding us through all these processes. and that's how our training progressed. So remember, the Me-35 was a helicopter which could fire almost all arsenal and more than what of the most air to ground aircraft used to fire at that point of time. And lo and behold, there was more quantity that you could carry than most of the other fighter aircraft at that point of time. Okay, because we had four stations and the missile station was outboard, and we could carry a lot more than what some of the fighter aircraft could carry because of limitation of weight. Right? We didn't have that. We were a 13-ton aeroplane. We were also the totally air conditioned aeroplane, pressurized and air conditioned. Not because for the reason of comfort as such, but more because they wanted to maintain overpressure inside the cockpit so that any contaminant from outside does not enter the aircraft. The air is taken for pressurization only through filtering plants. So that if there is a nuclear, biological, chemical contamination outside, it was supposed to have been filtered and brought inside. And we had sealing tubes and everything else, and the aircraft would get pressurized and sealed. That means you were safer inside because of that reason. So it was fairly complex aeroplane, so to speak. But that was the best challenge, and I think that was the best thing that happened to us because it was complex, because it was to be flown by the Air Force people for the support of the army in the tank battle and otherwise. And we had to understand as to how the army fights. So there was much more to learn. And many of me and my colleagues, and we were extremely happy to learn. And I was completely happy to learn. So I lost myself in that entire learning process. I don't even know how those 3.5, 4 years went by, and I flew the Mi-35. At Sarsawa, from Sarsawa, we moved to Bhatinda. That is where we converted the helicopters, and later I found that it was then it was one amazing time that way.
Yeah. Sir, is there any आपके आपने कोई ऐसी emergency face करी है जो now when you look back to was really scary, or it was scary and where you utilize your piloting skills and were able to
Yeah.
save the aircraft and people?
So thank you very much for asking me that. Much as I would like to, tell you about some or the other specific incident, and to try and raise the the glorification quotient of our talk. But let me tell you very clearly, all of us, all of us have faced grave situations. Okay. Now what happens is, understand it this way, and this is for your viewers, that when you start to fly the aeroplane, there is a small set of capability that you have got, and the aeroplane is a larger circle outside, right? So if you don't push at your own boundary, you can't keep expanding more. After all, in statistics terms, A intersection B is what you are. A is the aeroplane, B is what you are. So A intersection B subset is what you can do. So you have to expand B till the time you almost become A, so that you can do all that you can do with the airplane and more perhaps. But the importance is, when you are pushing your own limits, you cannot overstep things. So in that safety bound, as to what we learned, things would go wrong. There would be some failures taking place. There would be some critical emergencies taking place, some temperature shooting up, information, at night later with NVGs, and you had to tuck in quickly and guide people back home, and so on. So I could only say that God was extremely kind, extremely, extremely kind, that we trained very aggressively, not only in this initial phase of mine, but later as I went on to become a flight commander and then later commanding officer of a attack helicopter squadron. We trained very aggressively, very realistically. Mm, we faced challenges and situations, but we were lucky. Maybe our training stood us in good faith, and I thank God for actually that we were able to do that. There were cases wherein we could have by few seconds perhaps, and we would have landed up in a catastrophic situation. But we were extremely thankful to God that didn't happen. So it is not right for me to pinpoint one particular occasion, because mind you, every such occasion was linked with the skill, trust of the whole team. Very small example I'll give you, which is not an emergency, that the aeroplane, four aircraft have started up for a very important four aircraft low level first run attack at the range. You know, we have to go low level most of the way. get ultra low level close to the target so that the radars don't pick us up, and we get only one run to make at the target. First run attack. That means you can't see the target come back and again position yourself. First and FRA. We were lined up for all that. It was an extremely important mission for us because we were under inspection by Directorate of Air Staff Inspection, the standardization body which comes and sees that are you ready for war or not. Okay, so we all lined up and we were all charged up. One aeroplane radio was not coming up online. Okay, so see how the team makes a difference. The briefing of my people was so good, and I was the commanding officer. So we were, I was just observing it, and if that aeroplane would have fallen off, we would have lost marks immediately. Our mission would not have been graded as what it was because instead of 4 aircraft, we said only 3 aircraft. Weight on the target, weight of attack had reduced, so it's a no-go situation. So we had to put 4 aeroplanes. So there wasn't a standby aircraft which was also opened up, but something or the other was happening. So the airman who was sitting, who was seeing us off, there are the airman who was seeing us off, he realized something is not right. And he ran, he did that, he quickly changed the RT set when the aeroplane started up. We had thought about it earlier, we had rehearsed it earlier, we had practiced it earlier because we believed in the cause and the purpose. And therefore, just the eyes met, within seconds it got resolved and we went away. No one noticed. But the lesson stayed with me that in any emergency, in any situation, it is a team which matters. So this is where I would like to leave it at that. That instead of one particular emergency, by the way, a very major part of my flying experience was taught to me by another great man who now resides in Nagpur. Because when I was flying the Mi-35, and it'd been about 3-4 years for me to fly Mi-35, and I was to be scheduled for posting from there, I put my foot down and I said, look, I need to go to Leh to fly in the glacier. So I was told, no, no, what are you doing? Your skill set is different. But I was sick and tired of these, these jabs of my other colleagues that no, you are a runway pilot, attack helicopters, they need a lot of place to land. You, you haven't seen helicopter flying, you don't know how helicopter flies. So some of my seniors in the squad had told me that, the best way for you to grow is to go to the glacier and see how the cheetah flies in glacier and learn that. And believe you me, Mehul, that was one such decision which I made once again, which opened my eyes. Commodore Manpe, Dilip Manpe, he now resides in Nagpur. He's a great man. He was my commanding. He taught me with his own typical style of disdain, but I learned it from him actually. And believe you me, the cold, the glacier, the heights, the weather, the lack of fuel, the lack of oxygen, because you could only carry limited amount of oxygen. You could not carry much. So there were many such thumb rules that I learned from him and observing him as to how he would handle us, handle the flying, and he would fly aggressively with us. We learned from him. So that was one impeccable moment of time I had over there, that where I really soaked in uh, subconsciously. I wasn't very conscious that I'm learning it, but I soaked in it all in great details and great understanding, which actually helped me a lot, and a lot, because I was able to combine the attack helicopter flying with that kind of high altitude flying. So that is where it all made the difference to me. And so these two skill sets happened to come very. God was kind that I was able to reach there and get there and do that, and to be able to fly that.
So, what's the most beautiful view that you have seen from a cockpit, sir? Can you narrate us that?
Uh, Let me tell you that this is where today is 10th, tomorrow is 11th. Axiom 4 is taking off. Group Captain Sudhanshu Shukla will be taking off and become the second astronaut of the Indian Air Force. The first is, of course, Rakesh Sharma. And I also belong to the same school, the Test Pilot School, from where they all have graduated. They're all the graduate of Test Pilot School at Bangalore in AST. Mm. So you've heard that famous quip by our senior Sare Jahan Se Acha, when he was asked by the then Prime Minister. Remember? So I don't want to dramatize it that way, but I just want to tell you that as a helicopter pilot, and one who's even flying now. I fly the Augusta Westland 139 even now for about 3,000 hours. I've flown it now in the civil street, actually. I have been blessed to see the most breathtaking views of our country in this entire length and breadth. Over my 6,000 hours in the Air Force, and now almost 9,000 hours total, I can assure you, Mehul, that I have really been blessed to see Mother India's exceptional, beautiful, glorified, pristine natural beauty of our country. Right from the Andamans onto the west coast to Pirotan Islands of Jamnagar and beyond, into the Arabian Sea, into the uh, Indian Ocean, along the Orissa coast, to the northeast. Exceptional views of the valleys of Zero and the ALGs of Machuka and Tooting and Arunachal and the Brahmaputra mighty it flows, though it may just get interrupted because the grand scheme of China to again and the Gangetic Plains uh, through Bhutan, through Nepal, uh, the Himalayas, the deserts. The deserts are exceptionally beautiful at different times of days and nights. They can really be mesmerizing, and island territories of Kerala and this way. Uh, so I really have been blessed to see it because helicopter flies low and slow compared to all the other fast moving aeroplanes who fly very high and fast. We have, of course, sometimes we have to take cues from the nature itself, and we have to cut corners through this peak and that peak and this place and the other place because we have to manage it that way. We have that much of fuel, we have that much of reach, so to maximize everything we have to do that way. So that way it is difficult for me to pinpoint one, but I think I'm very satisfied and very thankful to the Air Force and to God Almighty that at least I've been able to, when you say "Sare jahan se acha," so I understand what its true meaning is actually for that, and I'm very thankful to the Air Force for that.
So yes, so they doing the Israeli upgradation of Me 35. Can you tell how was it done and what were the challenges that were faced?
Uh, yeah, that was one of my projects as a test pilot actually. Uh, so let me say it like this: there is there is certain uh, clear cut advantage in using a Eastern Bloc platform. Okay, mind you, I'm not saying just Russian, but I'm saying Eastern Bloc, mostly Russian, mostly Soviet bloc platform. Okay, all across from transport to helicopters to fighters everywhere. Okay, the platforms were very reliable. The engines were very reliable. The performance of the platform was very very good actually. Where they were lacking were not because of anything else, but because of their own thought process of war. They were not putting that kind of a avionics mission enabled avionics which enables the mission. You know that kind of avionics they were not really putting in that, and that is why it was seen from that point of view that if you somehow marry up the Western avionics to a Russian platform and you upgrade it, you are likely to land up into a very advantageous situation, very manageable, very advantageous. Let me take a break from this and give you a story, a very important trivia. Many people do not know that there are many American and Canadian pilots who have flown Me-17 helicopters in Afghanistan. The reason is in Afghanistan, they could not manage it much because the dust was so strong, the weather was so severe, the altitude was so high, the environment was so offensive that the Black Hawks and the Chinooks and the Apaches were not being able to maintain and flown as optimally as they would have done. Then they realized that it is only possible with the help of Me-17s, and they put the glass cockpit in the Me-17 with the help of Russians, bought it from the Russians, trained themselves onto this helicopter, then flew it there. So the concept at large is MiG-29 upgrade. MiG-29 is a Russian fighter, Soviet fighter. It has been upgraded. It's taken part in Op Sindoor, right? So every such MiG-27 upgrade, MiG-27 is a ground air to ground attack aircraft, swing wing, very effective platform, uh, very good platform, upgraded with the help of avionics from other side. So it was a similar project that had come to us, was conceived, very well conceived, and Israeli equipment was taken, and we had laid the bus bar MIL 1523 into the aeroplane, and we have put avionics over there. Basically, we had made the hind to do things which Apache could do as far as avionics. That means you look to the left and press a trigger, the gun will slew there. On your helmets, you had displays in daytime where you had all that information. At night, when flying in energies, you had a display on your monocle. So you could see heads up and you could hand over target without speaking. There were many such mission oriented avionic upgrade, avionic enablers which were put in that aeroplane. So it was very well conceived. So the whole process, and of course, it is not my project. It was a project of the team. You know, one of the members is no more in this world who went away very early, unfortunately, in an accident from the AST. The engineer Ravi, and many others after that who had to work through this, and people, we all of us were able to. My only what can I say? I mean, my role had been that not only I was involved in conceiving it, testing it, but when it got inducted into the field, I was there to induct it as a flight commander, as a CO, as a trainer as well. So that is what my contribution was, and we built a very good bank of people. Many of them are flying Apaches now, and they have, and in turn they have built a very large this thing. So that was the Me 35 upgrade, which meant that basically from a optical magnification of very modest kind, let's say 10 magnification, which was very modest, we were able to see it in a big display, which was something like maybe about close to 110 odd time magnification. And instead of looking through the old sight and guiding the missile, we could guide it using the joysticks. All right. And make better use of that very good missile. So that's what it's all about. Through the day, through the night, we could fire it. The envelope of the airplane totally changed. We could fly low at night, very close to ground. We could put in attacks through night, very close to ground. So there was immense value which got added because of that entire thing. So that was a very challenging and very satisfying trial of ours.
Yes, so innovations like night vision goggles and radio relay attacks, video streaming were there in the upgradation FM, right? So can you tell the audience what exactly these are?
So, so Mehul, like I said, I'm sure you've read it from somewhere in my Bharat Rakshak profile, or I don't know where you've read this from. But I'm just saying that, listen, what I want to share with your viewers is that if you do happen to choose this life, the Air Force will train you, it will equip you, it will open your horizons, it will give you skills which you already have. We didn't have these kind of skills. For me, it was difficult to understand what is a bus bar. For you, it may not be so alien to understand what is a bus bar. So your skills, your knowledge would get wings to be able to innovate and do what? To do your task better, to fight the air war better, to target better, to reach better, to deliver better, to make sure that you're able to do the task better. So all that you have read in somewhere in that, wherever you have read in that citation, is to do with the fact that we all applied ourselves. And it may have got credit to me for, because I happen to be the leader, I happen to conceive it, I happen to run in the whole show. But believe you me, at every stage we had people who were working tirelessly for it. It doesn't happen single. What happens that if you have gone for an attack at night somewhere and you are landing, because the attack helicopters do not operate at bases, we are somewhere else outside, and we have gone and seen some uh, uh, in the year 1991, Apaches had put in a very famous attack on Iraqi radar site, right? Task Force Normandy, you can Google and you can see what they did from, how they went. They were the first shots fired for the 1991 Gulf War to put that radar down, and that is when F-117s flew in, and rest is history. So if you try and see that, then unless you are networked, you cannot give the decision that yes, I have destroyed it. This is the proof. Either in the video stream or whichever way, the data has gone back to the op center. So we all were trying to connectivity in some network operation that one. Today it has totally changed. Believe you me. Now the architectures have changed. Those are the time when we're innovating, when we're trying to get those ideas and somehow innovate to move forward. So all will happen is that if you and your people of your age, boys and girls, they do decide to join this kind of a profile, then the Air Force, the services, armed forces, Army, Navy, they will equip you, they will train you, and then they will demand out of you that you will innovate in a manner which is controlled and productive. Remember, safety is a serious issue in air war and anywhere else as well. So it all had to be well encompassed in that one. Then only it will take place and we can move forward. Right? So all these innovation that you saw and you read was yes, we had to break into NVGs. We were lucky that we were the sort of pioneers at that point. People had flown NVGs before us. It's not that, but when Gen 2 Plus came, we took it up from the Cheetahs to the Mi-17s to the Mi-35s. So that was our contribution, onerous contribution to the entire capability.
So, one interesting tenure of your career was that you went to Congo, sir. And I believe that during that time, not many Air Force officers went outside India. Sir, what was your first reaction when you heard कि आप Congo जाओगे? And that too was for mission, even peacekeeping mission. So, what
Yeah,
was
no,
that?
brother. No, I must correct you, Mehul, that the UN missions were one great exposure for the helicopter stream. I went only once, but many friends of mine have gone 2 times, maybe 3 times. So there were plenty of people going over there. Unfortunately or fortunately, I was in that kind of a seniority bracket where I could be fitted in only once. So after my command, I had to go down there. Um, eh, it was very nice to see over there. You see, because when you operate in an international environment, see, after all, what is Monuk? Monuk was the mission in based in Goma and Bukavu, east of Congo. Um, Firstly, it was chapter 6, right, which was peace enforcement. So we were flying Mi-35s and we were authorized to open fire under certain laws and rules of engagement to do that. And we did open fire, right? Not to save ourselves. It's difficult to fight somebody else's war. It's not easy to fight somebody else's war. Your own war, yes, you are very clear about the purpose, but somebody else's war has got plenty of connotations which you have to be sure. And by the way, uh, we were supporting the Pakistani brigade.
So, how was
Yes.
it interacting with officers of Pakistan? Was there a muscle
Yeah.
show?
No, I mean, General Bajwa, later who was the chief of the army staff in Pakistan, was the brigade commander. Brigadier Bajwa was commanding the Pakistani brigade in Bukavu. Uh, we were supporting. We were in support of them. So it was a very healthy interaction, so to speak, because this is what happens when you go away from your country and your issues. Uh, at the same time, we always maintained the undercurrent, which was always there, because you know that competitive edge between soldiers at that point of time could never go down. So one would always be very mindful of things that way as it is there. But yes, it was a job because we were all troop contributing countries, TCCs, to the UN. India being one of the largest one. We also ran the biggest hospital in Goma, by the way, where everybody would come for their treatment because our doctors, our AMC doctors were so good. And then it was known all over the Congo, actually. People would come from as far as Kinshasa to get treated over there because they knew that these guys will set you right. So it was just not that. We were very wholesome over there. Uh, Thanks to the vision of some of our great seniors, Kulwant Singh Gill and all, Air Marshal Gill, who had gone there as the first person to establish that entire thing. Believe you me, that was one chapter of Indian Air Force, very glorified, where our contribution was immense, very significant, acknowledged by the UN in every which way, quoted even till now, and we were able to contribute to the that turbulent part. Yes, it was great learning in understanding the ecosystem of different country. What is the resource curse in Africa? The curse of what lies beneath your feet is the resource curse. So how is that affecting you, and what is the meaning of the word exploitation? What is happening in the UN? What does it mean to operate in a multicultural environment? Because there were observers from all over the world sitting over there, and the UN headquarters would be equipped by different nationalities and different militaries. So to understand that how it is to be done, to be stitched, that was one good challenge and good opportunity to learn. And I think all of us did that. We also did that. I got sort of attached to General Patrick Cammert, who was the Dutch Marine general who was heading our division. Later, he became the force commander, I believe. Uh, so with him to evolve how to employ the Mi-35 in a more effective manner by day, by night, and traveling with him and trying to make a difference where we could have made actually. And we did make the difference when Goma came under attack. Mm. To have seen eruption of live volcano during the night mission, it also happened. So it was one great just about 11 and a half months, which was wonderful learning exposure for me. Many of my friends went two times from Me35. They went at least 2 to 3 times. Mm. So that was not my destiny. But in that 11 and a half months, I made sure that I added value to the whole system. I learned a lot of things from there. And I enriched myself with experiences, with understanding, with knowledge, with connections, with people mm, of on all sides: sociological, geological, geographical, even nature and wildlife. I was fortunate to go walk down into Rwanda and see the mountain gorilla, okay, which is the most threatened in that Virunga National Park in that area, which is adjoining Uganda, Rwanda, and East Congo, East DRC, right? So and the travels over there, and it was a large lesson of life compressed into 11 and a half months, along with some very challenging flying and very satisfying operations, uh, which was possible.
Yes, sir. Sir, in Congo, sir, you were sanctioned to use the guns and all. So, was there any combat ritual that you faced in Congo, or was it all
Yeah,
normal?
yeah, like I said, yes, I said, of course,
Can
that
you narrate us
we
that incident? What happened?
Yeah, no, we were under Chapter 6, like I mentioned. Chapter 6 is peace enforcement, right? So it is not peacekeeping; it is peace enforcement. So you are allowed to use calibrated force, proportionate force to deal with a situation under a set of rules of engagement. Okay, there are preconditions that have to be met, and then you have to do that. So towards the later part of our tenure, the town of Goma came under attack by FARDC. All right. There was a time when they were organized so much and they were pushing us back, and they could have taken over the UN headquarters in Goma, at the Goma airport. So that is the time at night I was one of the first one to go and launch over there, and we had our triggers were hot and we fired, and uh, many such things happened. One of my colleagues in Coastmate, he got a very good shot at the one of the camps. He was decorated gallantly for that, and we fired at many places. So that whole effort was there, that they were stopped by day and night in their tracks, and they could not take over Goma, and we remained there. Otherwise, we would have had to evacuate from there. The situation was that dire. So that's why I said in that 11 and a half months, everything was packed, including a very successful mission. Uh, 2 minutes left. Okay. All right.
Yes, sir.
Sure.
Uh, so, the one thing that I want to ask is that, sir, when you first killed a person for peacekeeping and all, so at that time there is adrenaline rush कि उसमें focus रहता है कि target मेरा ये है, I have to do it. So, was there any second thoughts after when you landed?
I think the saying was ethics is a big part of soldiering, right?
Yes, sir.
Value system and ethics is the big part. So there is no difference between uh, killing a person or making bodily harm. It is done by somebody on the street, which is punishable. It's a criminal CRPC offense, and it is done by soldiers, to do in a particular cause. We just heard our coastmate of Desh Bharti, uh, DG Air Ops. Ours not the job to count the body bags. His statement is very famous now. Mm. So it is very evident and clear that when you are under the code of ethics, and this is what I was talking about, how Soldiering is all about ethics. The the mainstream of our ether is ethics. So when that is happening, you are very clear in your mind. So I heard a very interesting statement actually. What is that one word which differentiates between a soldier and somebody who's not a soldier? Indulging in same violence. It is the purpose.
So that is a really interesting perspective to think with. That is what differentiates.
Yes, it is the purpose. And the purpose is derived from your ethics, your value system. This is what we were trained for. So we were trained to be very sure and clear. And look at this irony that this was not our war. He was not exactly the enemy of our country, but he was brutal. And believe you me, Mehul, you have to really see to believe some of our presentation that we had as to how they would hack their opponents and actually eat them. Yes. So believe you me that it was such a terrible scene in the manner of exploitation which was happening over there. So when in a situation like that, your purpose is resolved, the conflict is resolved, the trigger is hot, the training is through, the bullets will fly, the rockets will go.
So because
Okay.
you tend to realize that their life has no meaning. If the person is eating someone, life has no meaning over there.
No, they are not eating it as in to consume to live. They're showing that they're eating it to show how they can dominate them. You know. So there are ways and means. The games people play in that kind of a primitive societies and those kind of primitive places actually. It can happen that way. So they are brutal when they would uh, very young soldiers under the effect of khat. Khat is that tobacco that they chew. They would do all kinds of atrocities, and when they would start hitting, it is inhuman. Absolutely, you and I cannot imagine that way. So that is what is the sensitivity which was being driven, at least into me. And I was taking it up all into my ethics and my system. And I knew that, yes, this is what is to be done. So that is why I said, once the purpose is resolved in your head, then for a combatant, not only a pilot, for any combatant, it is very clear that violence is driven by ethics and value system and purpose. So that becomes your dharma. It becomes your karma. This is what I believe Lord Krishna said in Gita as well. You know, now don't look for who's standing over there. You have to do what you have to do, right? So this is where it all matters. This is where it all matters. And most of it goes, like you said, the train once the training kicks in, tuck, 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 switches, there it goes, right? So then the training kicks in, which has already been resolved. So there are no ifs and buts and doubts. So these are the ventures of your life which you start to train. Once again, there is no glorification. Please, I'm requesting you that for umpty number of time, there is no glorification that I did this and he did that and so happened. No, each and every one of us have got our chances in the lives. We have excised it, rightly or wrongly. If correctly, then we have got good results. If not right, then become a lesson for others, right? So everyone has tried to improve things and take it forward. And that is how like I said, you heard our coursemate, Avdesh Bharti, explain it beautifully that it is not our job to count the body bags, right? So we have a purpose and we have an ethics, and this is what we go by. I
Yes,
hope
sir.
I make my point.
Yes, sir. So you went to Ukraine as well on a diplomatic tenure. So tell एक average day क्या होता है diplomat का?
I don't know, Mehul, how to say this actually. Yeah, this was a godsend opportunity for me to go to a beautiful country called Ukraine and be the air attaché there and defense attaché to Romania while living in Kyiv for about more than 3 years over there, and also become the part of history by seeing the history firsthand. I also happened to be standing at Sevastopol, not Simferopol, the capital of Crimea, that fateful moment when Crimea was taken over by Russia. Uh, I was there to soothe and to ease the students of the medical college in Simferopol, uh, to comfort them that look, don't worry, I'm here and nothing's grave going to happen. Your question is very wide, brother. So the diplomat is basically it's not a primary job. We're not part of the MEA. We haven't been brought up in diplomacy. We Some of us do get a shot to do this kind of a job actually, which was extremely enriching and fulfilling for me. So the job of a diplomat, or for military diplomacy as they call it actually, is that we make contacts with the host nation militarily. We make contact with the other nations which are staying there in the military diplomatic circle, and glean good lessons and things of that sort from them in that interaction. That is one part. With the host country, you help the ambassador, the team. The head of the team was ambassador over there. You help him to understand and strengthen his hands as to how things can happen better between your country and the host country. And if there are any good opportunities in terms of technology, in terms of concepts, in terms of uh, procedures, in terms of applications, doctrines, which can be taken back and given back to a country, you try and do that. In our case, it was also important that we had to manage our supply chain of critical items from that part of the world. So the Air Attaché in Ukraine has this responsibility as well, that he's part of the system which does the emergency procurement of uh, spares and everything else from there. So I it involved my job to overall the Mi-35 helicopters over there, the same which I had flown there back in India. They had come to me for overall. I got them overall from send them back. We managed a very big project of A2 upgrade, um, of almost 104 aeroplanes, out of which 40 we made in Ukraine. I sent it back to India from there in batches of 5. Mm, So that was one very big challenge. So all said and done, the conflict included uh, of Crimea was a tremendous opportunity, because this entire this entire expansion of NATO and EU eastward, which had already taken many tentacles. Georgia and all have already fallen, but into Ukraine, that was happening through 2011 and 12 when I was there. So it gave me a very good understanding as to what are the dynamics between the East and the West, and how across the Pacific Ocean, America sitting over there, how they play the cards over here, and what happens exactly, and how can we
Yes, sir,
make
I have
sure that.
a question leading to this. Sir. Did it change your perspective on geopolitics, this tenure?
Yeah, in the sense it was a first-hand account, because not many of us have seen that part of the world. We don't understand that part of the world as what I got to see over there by living there 3.5 years, and being part of this momentous tectonic shifts which took place of EU, NATO, then Crimea, and later the other part of the conflict as well. So since I saw it from the first hand, I understood it from the first hand. So it certainly made me more wise about geopolitics, and became my favorite subject. And I was very fortunate to have a very, very one of my best bosses, which happened to me over there, was my ambassador, uh, Mr. Rajiv Chandar, IFS. He taught me, he tutored me, and I learned, and I read, and I worked, and it gave me great opportunities. Very small things like uh, hired a whole train from the town which is now under attack at this point of time. Uh, it was just at that point of time in 2013, 2014, when we had to evacuate people over there. The environment was so intense that nothing could land over there. So I hired a full train, managed to put all the students on the train. I had to spend the Holi there with them and convince everybody else, push my way through by threat and otherwise as well, Sam Dam Dand Bhed, and get the people back into Kyiv, where Ambassador and his team was waiting. So, there were many such opportunities which are wonderful. On the lighter side, I there's a tournament which the Air Force conducted called Subroto Cup football tournament of the boys.
Yes, I
It happens
participated.
in
I
Delhi.
participated in that,
So I
sir.
was asked for a participant in that. Wonderful. So I was told to send a team from Ukraine. And lo and behold, whom did I send? I sent the Dynamo Kiev Colts. Dynamo Kyiv. Now the stadium lies in shambles, but that time it was one of the prime clubs of Europe. Uh, and I sent their team, and there was such a buzz on social media. Those boys came here and they won every match. They did not concede any goal. I think they got only scored against in the finals by some Kerala team. Won all the trophies, all the prizes, and went back home. And I got a nap on my knuckles. Ki, Are, what kind of a team you have sent? They've defeated everybody, and कोई हल्की सी team भेजो. so, so, so I said, so there were such good opportunities and challenges which took place, and that was a wonderful time for me personally for my learning. And I made great connect. I learned the language, I learned the culture. I had some great friends who are even there till now. Uh, and those
Yes, sir.
connects and
When
my
talking of
my
culture, sir, I
whole.
have this question, sir. So that I've even the Russian President Putin has said that is some influence of Nazi in the Ukraine's military. Is it true? Even because when Putin attacked, he mentioned this then that Nazi influence. So
So
you
I
are
I
there.
don't know how to
Understand?
say it actually. See, first of all, these days, whatever you get to hear from these speeches, and you have the advantage of going back to the to the AI models and asking them to give you a quick update on this, what exactly the background is, and you can get to see the background. But please understand, nothing is taken into isolation. Okay, nothing is taken. It's a melting pot. So this trait that you're talking about comes from the west of Ukraine because they had those rulers. They Bogdan Khmelnytsky. You try and Google him and see. Bogdan Khmelnytsky was a hitman. He would carry his bulat, and he would bulat is something like a Hanuman ji ki gada, choti gada, bulat. So the baton of authority. He would ride his horses back far and wide in that area, and he was known to uh, to take over things in one or the other manner. Point here is that when the gene pool is same, when the cultures are close by, so there are understandings of that sort, this or the other, right? So don't see it in isolation that Nazism was there. No, it's not like that. It is just that they had a view which was quite similar to how Nazis looked at no, no, it is us, West Ukraine, we will handle it, which was there for a while, and then it became otherwise. So now they were, when I left them, they were a very wholesome country, exceptionally beautiful. Imagine a country which is called the breadbasket of Europe, in spite of the fact that it is 4 to 6 months under snow. So uh, the minerals, the technology, the metallurgy, they were a powerhouse, and they contributed immensely to the world at large. You'd be surprised. All Russian helicopters, all Russian helicopters were flown on Ukrainian engines, which were made in Zaporozhye, Motor Sich. It is just now that they've started the factory sometime back, Klimov, that they've started making these engines because now the situation is different. So they were all part of one large ecosystem, which was very. I'm not sure if you're aware. Like EU, you keep hearing there is also uh, a union within Russian influenced nations, right? They also have a union, a trade union. So you can do that. You could do the trade, and their trade is also in very large amount. We don't know about it actually because we are far removed, but we see this isolated one statement that yes. So I would request you to not to take these statements in isolation and try and study about the whole thing, and then realize this can best happen by talking to people who have been there. And even better that if you get a chance to go and see and study over there, they have great student exchange programs. Their students come here, our students go there. We do all that kind of a thing. A lot of art and culture, yoga, kathak, bharatnatyam, everything is there. So to great value, our culture is there. So it is quite possible for us to go and see as to how these commonalities are there, and what we can do that. So nothing against Ukraine, nothing against Nazism, nothing against that sort, nothing against Russia, but in general, as us, because remember one thing, what I understood, that in diplomacy, there is only one fact, that the nation's interests are prime. So whatever is in our interest, we should try and imbibe that. Whatever is not in our interest, we should try and avoid that. Try and turn it around so that it can become in our interest. Because it's all about that. Everyone in this world works on that principle, perhaps. You know. So this is where perhaps one needs to change the prism and see the things in these lights.
Yes.
Let me just share with you, one insight actually, and then we can sort of call it off. Yeah, Jammu was one phase of mine actually. Yes, we were there immediately after Ukraine. I had to come to Jammu and be at Jammu for extended almost 2 years, 4, 5, 6, 7 months before I went on to the NDC course. Uh, Fact of the matter was in Jammu, uh, we saw each of the major terrorist attack at that point in time, including Pathankot, Uri, Nagrota, Pathankot, Kathua, and many other such places. And it gave me immense opportunity to work with the army, use my earlier training with the army. By the way, I was trained with the army as a tank man because attack helicopter pilots were required to go and train as a tank man. So I trained as a young officer at Ahmednagar. Then I went back again to Ahmednagar to School of Armored Warfare. I did my combat team leaders course, which gave me a great insight in combines arms concept. You know how all the arms function together and fight the battle for a purpose and a cause. So I used all that information and understanding of mine in building big bridges with the army. I mean, in the sense that not big bridges, building big relationship with the army installations around me, and build one wholesome joint environment at that place to make sure that we are able to do the job better. In that, we were there on top using our UAVs, giving inputs to different people, and we had the setups available over there. So I think Jammu was very much of that, mm, because that was one portion. Uh, Instructors, much before I went to the Ukraine, I was a chief instructor of Air Force Academy as well, which I would leave one point with your viewers very clearly that uh, there is a movie called Vijeta. Your generation would not have seen it.
Yes,
Okay,
I have seen
it's
it,
there.
sir. 1982.
Yeah, it's there on the YouTube. Kunal Kapoor as a cadet in Indian Air Force Academy, and uh, I think Amrish Puri as a CI
Yes, sir.
Flying Air Force Academy, right? Whose daughter uh, is being quoted by Kunal Kapoor. Uh, so he says this in that speech, in that movie, that from here onwards, you are being trained. So for you flying so high and tumbling so down at that rate and that speed will not be anything dangerous. It could be for somebody outside. They don't know. They're not being trained. You are being trained. So you have to keep your mind sharp and you have to take this as your normal walk of life. Okay. So this is where I ask your generation when it comes into our challenges that you come with immense store of knowledge. There is such amount of understanding, knowledge, technology, kinetic understanding that your generation carries right from handling a mobile from a very childhood stage, and being able to very erudite and finding out things. So your resourcefulness, your knowledge store, your understanding, your kinematics is much at a larger pace and rate than ours. So your demand, the demand from you will be much more high. Mind you, there is a concept called air warrior leader. Air warrior leader. Anyone who joins the Air Force, and I speak from my experience, that you join the Air Force to become an air warrior. It is just not about flying the aeroplane. Any aeroplane, transport, helicopters, fighters, doesn't matter. Gliders. You don't fly only, you fly to fight. So in our doctrine book, we have something called an air power tree. Every element of the Air Force finds a place in that tree. As air warriors, it's our job to find our place in that tree and do that job best. And as officers, you are air warrior leaders. As a young officer flying an aeroplane worth multi-million dollars with your fingers on the trigger, about to launch a weapon, which is directed by a radar and a controller, and so on and so forth, you are part of that system which will make the difference. And you've seen it recently in Ops Hindu. So you are the air warrior leader. So that trait is what is required to be understood by you all, not this issue of glorification, making a reel and a meme here and this, that, the other. I mean, this is This is normal. If you wish to do that within whatever is possible, you can keep doing that actually. But within yourself, within your own internalized understanding, you must understand this, that it is not you who's sitting on the trigger. It is your entire squadron. Everybody who's worked in the flight line, all the engineers, all the boys who have worked over there, even the NC who's got you a cup of tea before you came out for the sortie, is all part for this trigger, this weapon which has going to hit the target. So you will get only one chance, one opportunity. You can't waste that. That is why we train so hard in peace, so that the war is what it is like prosecuted. Didn't you see how beautifully the runway was cut? Pinpoint accuracy,
Yes,
right?
sir.
So you have to, and no, there were surprises. You will get surprise here and there. That is what it's all about. You have to quickly innovate, walk out of it, sense the trap, avoid it, better it, do all that. So this concept of being an air warrior, and that to an air warrior leader, is what I want to leave with your listeners, because this is what encompasses everything else. What you said, either it is Jammu, or it is flying instructors, or it is being a test pilot, or being a squadron pilot, or being this, that, the other. I was an inspector for a long time in the director of air staff inspection myself. I have the very good opportunity to fly with many squadrons, many places, all kinds of airplane, to see and understand as to what is happening, to realize how much is the ground element contributing, right? So how each of the components can be brought to bear by that air part tree, where can be brought into. So please understand that if you are making up your mind to be part of a system like what I've just tried to describe to you all, please remember that it is not a flashy, glorifying. Uh, it is a very silent. It is a very grave. It is a very somber. It is a very honest, earnest, value-based, right, ethics-based set that you're going to enter. You will have to grow into it. You will have to unravel this labyrinth yourself, with the help of your instructors, your seniors. Sometimes your juniors also will teach you. You'll have to unravel this labyrinth, pick up all these pieces together, and walk ahead in this path, because this is what perhaps one would want to do. This is serious stuff. I'm not saying that what is it? All play makes Jack a dull boy or something. There's an old saying like that. All work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. I'm not saying that. There is plenty of joy and mirth which we had through and through, but that was coexistent. It wasn't part of that flashy self, which is now these days real and meme based, okay, or Instagram based. So it may not happen that way. That is not the way how the military, armed forces, air forces shape themselves. So that responsibility lies with you and I. It was my responsibility to share it with you all and your listeners, so that you can understand that. So this is where I would make my final point.
Yes,
All
sir.
right.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir, for joining us, sir. I'm 100% sure that the audience have learned a lot, and I myself have learned a lot. So it was having a sortie with you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. May will wish you all the very best, and to Prahlad as well, Prakhar as well.